Today, I want to talk about the mechanics of the breath. We have talked a little bit about the exhale and the importance of the exhale when producing sound. Um, but I think today I just want to go a little more in depth into how essentially the breath is working. In the technique that I teach, I really like to encourage really grounded breathing. Sometimes this could even incorporate imagining that you're breathing into your feet or into your knees or into your glutes and bringing the breath really down into the body, really grounding the breath quite low. When we do breathing exercises, I really want to encourage you to really think about breathing down into the body so that the belly expands. Now, when we breathe, our lungs come roughly to the base of the ribs, and underneath the lungs, there is an organ called the diaphragm. It kind of runs across the cross section of the torso, and I like to imagine it as a trampoline. So when I breathe in, I try to imagine that I'm breathing down into the base of the lungs and gently massaging the diaphragm down, or if you want to think of it as jumping up and down on a trampoline or a bellum or an accordion, that expansion, the vacuum that those kind of objects create. So when I breathe in, I'll exhale first, and then I breathe in. I don't know if you can hear my tummy grumbling, but I know that my breathing is well grounded if I can hear my belly grumbling, because the diaphragm will press down onto the intestines, onto the stomach, and create movement and massage these organs here, which is quite good for your health, your digestive health. And it also just tells me that I've really grounded my breath. Sometimes I like to think of myself as breathing even deeper into the pelvis. We're breathing into the bum. And see if you can imagine an expansion there. I know it's an abstract idea, but that kind of helps us really ground the breath. And then you can kind of bring the idea of this expansion coming into the side or the front of the ribs, or try and imagine breathing into the back, and then bring it all together so that we imagine a full expansion in all of these places. When I introduce breathing exercises, I really like to bring the idea that we're pressing from the bottom as if it's an accordion or a bellum, or you're massaging from the bottom. So you breathe in, and then so the breath coming in is just that we've created this vacuum of empty space, and it's just replenishing. I like to think of the breath in this way as opposed to focusing on the inhale, because I think that makes it more labored, and the breath can sometimes end up being more shallow. And keeping in mind, it is useful to think of the breath up into these places because the lungs come up quite high, at least on the one side. So sometimes you can imagine you're breathing into the collarbones, into the hands, under the armpits, whatever is useful to you. Sometimes I like to imagine that I have a mouth on the sole of my feet when I'm standing, and really feeling like I'm breathing in through my feet. Any of these visuals can really help us produce a really grounded sound, and also to learn about expression through the breath. If I'm warming up for a performance, I often will not warm up my vocal cords. I warm up my lungs. You know, if you've ever gone for a jog or anything, and for the first few minutes, it's usually quite labored breathing. Your lungs are feeling tight and sore, but after, 5 minutes, you feel better. And I think the same thing is true for me when it comes to singing and performance and anything. And I think it's a really lovely practice to engage in, even if you're not performing, even if you just want to really explore the breath. Really imagine you're breathing into different parts of your body, and think about the diaphragm, and think about bringing the exhale from the bottom And then the inhale is simply a replacing, a replenishing of that space that you created through the exhale. So yeah, explore, experiment with what works for you. No two instruments are the same. I had a voice teacher the other day that I was talking to, and she expressed to me how she feels that voice teaching should be an oral tradition. So please keep in mind that all of these concepts that I'm sharing with you are concepts that I have found work for my body. So use them as a starting point. Experiment with the breath, use your imagination, and think about expansion and all the space on the inside as you inhale and exhale. And as a final suggestion, sometimes it's useful to experiment with the breath to a song. And so what I mean by that is rather than practicing the song with your voice, using exercises like the non-voiced fricatives that we've used in other videos, the shh. So for example, happy birthday to you. The tempo is happy birthday to you. So you could play around. And play around with the tempo and exercise this part of you, and let yourself try different sounds, non-voiced sounds, so we can start thinking about expression only with the breath. And we can express a lot without actually engaging the voice. And I think the more we explore that, the more we can express with the voice without laboring the voice as much. Learning to express with our breath will help us use the vocal cords as a tool, not the main part of the voice. It will help us incorporate it into our instrument. So play around with that. Please feel free to leave a comment in this video to see how it goes. Please feel free to subscribe to my newsletter when you hear about further exercises or classes and opportunities to study with me privately, and about other art that I make. Please feel free to explore, and welcome.